The family, BBQ. My son asked for a burger. My brother said those are only for kids with a future. Everyone nodded. I quietly took our plates and left. 11:55 p.m. He texted, remember, but now he is. The July sun beat down on my parents' backyard as smoke rose from the grill. My brother Marcus stood there like a king, flipping burgers with exaggerated flair while his wife Jennifer documented everything on her phone for social media. Their twin boys, both wearing designer sneakers that cost more than my monthly grocery budget, ran circles around the yard. My son Daniel, 7 years old, tugged at my sleeve. Mom, can I have a burger? I'm really hungry. I smiled down at him. Of course, honey. Let's go ask Uncle Marcus. We walked over to the grill, where Marcus was holding court, telling Dad and our cousin Trevor about his latest business expansion. He'd opened a third auto repair shop last month and hadn't stopped talking about it since. Uncle Marcus? Daniel said politely. Can I please have a burger? Marcus looked down at my son, then at me, then back at Daniel. His expression shifted into something I'd seen too many times before. Pity mixed with contempt. Those are only for kids with a future, he said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. Kids whose parents can actually provide for them. The backyard went quiet. Dad looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Mom busied herself with the potato salad. Jennifer laughed, that high-pitched giggle she used whenever Marcus said something cruel. Trevor just shook his head and walked away. Aunt Patricia nodded from her lawn chair, setting down her wine glass with a disapproving click. Marcus has a point, dear. You really should think about Daniel's future instead of that little apartment you're renting. When are you going to get serious about your career? Uncle Robert chimed in, walking over from the beverage table with his characteristic smirk. My accountant was just telling me about investment opportunities last week. Real wealth-building strategies. Maybe if you'd made better choices earlier in life, you could afford to give Daniel what he needs. It's never too late to start, though. Marcus flipped another burger, clearly enjoying the audience. Some people just don't have the entrepreneurial mindset. Not everyone can run a successful business. It takes vision, dedication, real sacrifice. Daniel's hand tightened in mine. I could feel him trying not to cry. My 7-year-old son was learning what it felt like to be looked down on by his own family. I understand, I said quietly. I took the paper plate from Daniel's hand and set it on the table. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. But I'm hungry, Daniel whispered. I know. We'll get something on the way. As we walked toward the gate, I heard Marcus call out, Don't forget the family investment meeting next week. Oh, wait. That's only for people who actually contribute to the family business. More laughter. I kept walking, my hand on Daniel's shoulder. In the car, Daniel finally let the tears fall. Why doesn't Uncle Marcus like us? It's complicated, honey. Is it because we don't have a big house like his? I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Uncle Marcus doesn't understand everything about our life. That's okay. We stopped at a diner on the way home. One of those classic chrome and vinyl places that served breakfast all day. Daniel ordered a burger and fries, extra pickles, and I watched him eat thinking about the past 5 years, about the choices I'd made that my family considered failures. About the late nights they knew. Nothing about the conference calls at midnight with Tokyo and London. About the phone calls and meetings they'd never understand, the negotiations and acquisitions that happened in boardrooms they'd never see. Daniel wiped ketchup from his chin. This is a really good burger, Mom. Better than Uncle Marcus's would have been? He grinned. Way better. That smile made everything worth it. That night, after I put Daniel to bed, I sat in my small living room with a cup of tea. The apartment was quiet, humble, nothing impressive by my family's standards. But it was ours, and it was exactly what I needed it to be. At 11:05, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Just so we're clear, you disrespected me today, walking out like that in front of everyone. Remember who guaranteed your business loan when you were trying to start that consulting thing 5 years ago? Remember who believed in you when nobody else did? You owe me some respect. I stared at the message for a long moment. The consulting thing. That's what he called it. 5 years ago, when I'd asked for help starting my financial consulting business, Marcus had laughed in my face. I'd gone to him because I'd always looked up to him, my successful older brother. You, a consultant, he'd said. You barely graduated college. Who's going to take financial advice from you? When I applied for a small business loan, the bank required a guarantor. Marcus eventually agreed, but only after making me beg. Only after holding it over my head at every family gathering. He signed the papers, convinced I'd fail within a year and that he'd never actually have to pay anything. What Marcus didn't know was what happened 6 months after he guaranteed that loan. I opened my laptop and pulled up the files I'd been reviewing earlier that evening. Bank documents, transfer papers, ownership records. Then I typed my response. Marcus, I appreciate you bringing up the loan guarantee. I've been meaning to discuss that with you. I'm attaching the bank ownership transfer documents. As of 14 months ago, I own First National Bank. The same bank that holds your business loans for all 3 auto shops. The same bank that guaranteed your expansion. I also own the mortgage on Mom and Dad's house, which you refinanced last year for your second shop. Check your email. I hit send and attached the documents. Then I sent a second message. Also attached, the loan default notice that will be sent to you tomorrow morning. You're 3 days late on your payment for the third shop. The grace period ended today. As the new owner, I've implemented stricter policies. My phone rang immediately. Marcus. I didn't answer. Instead, I forwarded him another document. The purchase agreement from 14 months ago when I bought First National Bank through my investment firm. The same bank he'd been using for years, never knowing who really owned it. My phone exploded with calls. Marcus, Jennifer, dead. I silenced it and sent one more email. This one went to the bank's senior loan officer, copying Marcus. Please proceed with the standard late payment protocol for Marcus Thompson's account. A 3-day late notice was issued. The next step is the formal default process and potential acceleration of the full loan amount. He has 72 hours to bring all accounts current, including penalties. The calls kept coming. I made myself another cup of tea. Finally, at 1230, I answered Marcus's call. What the hell is this? He shouted before I could say hello. You own the bank. That's impossible. You're a consultant. You live in a tiny apartment. I am a consultant, I said calmly. I consult for Fortune 500 companies on acquisition strategy. My firm handles portfolio management for several high net worth clients. We purchased First National 14 months ago as part of a larger investment strategy. This is insane. You can't do this to family. Do what, Marcus? Enforce standard banking policies? You're late on your payment. By 3 days. There's always a grace period. There was. It ended tonight. The new ownership implemented stricter protocols last quarter. You would have known this if you'd read the notices we sent, or if you'd bothered to ask me about my actual career, instead of calling it that consulting thing. Jennifer's voice shrieked in the background. Tell her about the social media post. Tell her we'll ruin her reputation. I took a sip of tea. Marcus, you're currently in default on $340,000 in business loans. Your shops are leveraged at 92%. If I call the loans, you'll lose everything in about 6 weeks. I suggest you focus on making your payment rather than social media threats. You wouldn't do that. We're family. Family, I repeated. Is that what you told Daniel today? When you said burgers were only for kids with a future? When you humiliated a 7-year-old child at a family barbecue? Silence on the other end. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You have 72 hours to make your payment plus late fees. That's $12,800. After that, we proceed with standard default protocols. I don't have that kind of cash right now. Everything's tied up in inventory. Then you should have made your payment on time. Please, Marcus said. And I heard something I'd never heard from him before. Fear. Can't you just extend the grace period? For family. The same family that mocked my son today? The same family that spent 5 years reminding me that you guaranteed my loan? Speaking of which, I paid that loan off 4 years ago. But you enjoyed holding it over my head too much for me to mention it. Dad's voice came through the phone. Marcus must have put it on speaker. Sweetheart, be reasonable. Marcus made a mistake today. He'll apologize. Will he, Dad? Because you stood right there when he refused to feed your grandson. You said nothing. Mom's voice followed, tearful. We didn't know it would hurt Daniel's feelings. You're being vindictive. I'm being a banker. If Marcus were any other client, he'd already be in formal default. I'm giving him 72 hours as a courtesy. What do you want? Marcus asked. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry I said that to Daniel. Happy now. I don't want anything, Marcus. I want you to pay your loan on time like the contract requires. Whether you apologize to Daniel is between you and your conscience. I could hear Jennifer crying in the background. Dad trying to negotiate. Mom asking how this happened. Uncle Robert's voice joined the chaos. This is extortion. I know lawyers. Excellent, I said. Have them review the loan documents. They'll confirm that everything I'm doing is completely legal and standard banking practice. In fact, Marcus received preferential treatment for the past 14 months because I instructed the loan department not to flag his account for special attention. That courtesy ends now. I hung up and blocked their numbers for the night. I needed sleep. The next morning, I woke to 73 missed calls and 42 text messages. I ignored them all and made Daniel breakfast. Pancakes, his favorite. Are you okay, Mom? He asked, studying my face. I'm perfect, honey. Eat your breakfast. At 9, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. This is David Park, attorney for Marcus Thompson. We need to discuss these loan acceleration threats. Mr. Park, there are no threats. There is a contract that your client signed and standard banking policies that apply to all borrowers. Marcus is in default. He has 68 hours remaining to cure that default. My client tells me you're his sister. This is a clear conflict of interest. I'm the owner of the bank. My brother is a borrower. There's no conflict. If anything, he's received preferential treatment. That ends now. 68 hours, Mr. Park. I hung up. At 10, the bank senior loan officer called. Miss Thompson, we've received several calls from Marcus Thompson's attorney. How would you like us to proceed? Standard protocol. No exceptions. If he doesn't cure the default within the specified time, we initiate acceleration proceedings on all 3 loans. Understood. Also, we received his payment this morning. $12,800. Wire transfer at 9:45. I smiled. Good. Please confirm receipt and update his account status. And John, from now on, Marcus Thompson gets the same treatment as any other commercial borrower. No special consideration. Of course. Will you be coming to the board meeting this afternoon? Yes. I need to review the third quarter projections. After I hung up, I sat quietly for a moment. Marcus had found the money, probably borrowed it from Dad, or sold something. It didn't matter. He'd paid. My phone buzzed. A text from a new number. That, your mother is very upset. This isn't who you are. I responded. This is exactly who I am. You just never bothered to ask. 3 days later, I received a formal letter via certified mail. An apology from Marcus to Daniel. Carefully worded. Probably written by his lawyer. It meant nothing, but it was something. 2 weeks after that, at Mom's birthday dinner, the family was different. Quieter. Marcus and Jennifer arrived late and left early. Nobody asked about my apartment or my job. Nobody made comments about Daniel's future. When Daniel asked Uncle Marcus if he could have a piece of cake, Marcus said yes immediately, and cut him an extra large slice. Small victories. That night, as I tucked Daniel into bed, he said, Uncle Marcus was nicer today. Yes, he was. Did you talk to him? In a way. Good, Daniel said, yawning. I like it better when people are nice. I kissed his forehead. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Later, in my home office, I reviewed the bank's quarterly reports. First National was performing above projections. The acquisition had been one of my best decisions. Not because of Marcus, but because it was a solid investment that would help secure Daniel's actual future. The future my family had mocked at a barbecue. The future I'd been building in silence while they assumed I was failing. My phone buzzed. An email from Trevor, my cousin who'd walked away from the grill that day. I heard what happened. Good for you. Marcus needed to learn that lesson. Also, my company is looking for a financial consultant for an acquisition we're planning. Any chance you're taking new clients? I smiled and typed back, "Send me the details. I'd be happy to review them." The next family gathering would be interesting, but that was fine. I'd spent 5 years being underestimated. I could handle being respected. Or feared. Either worked. What mattered was that Daniel would never again be told he didn't have a future. Because his mother had been building that future the whole time. One acquisition at a time, one investment at a time. While they were too busy judging to notice. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the most powerful. They just choose not to announce it until absolutely necessary. And refusing a hungry child? A burger at a family barbecue? That made it absolutely necessary.